The story of Noah's Ark begins with a world consumed by sin and wickedness. The Bible paints a bleak picture of humanity, describing how the Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every intention of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. Genesis 6 verse 5. In the midst of this moral decay, one man stood apart, Noah, described as a righteous man, blameless in his generation. Genesis 6 verse 9. It was to this faithful servant that God issued a startling command: "I have determined to make an end of all flesh, for the earth is filled with violence through them. Behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Make yourself an ark of gopher wood." Genesis 6 verses 13 to 14. The task God set before Noah was nothing short of monumental. He was to single-handedly construct a massive vessel capable of weathering a cataclysmic flood that would wipe out all of civilization. Yet, despite the sheer scale of the undertaking and the incredulity of his neighbors, Noah responded with unwavering obedience. The Bible records that Noah did this: he did all that God commanded him. Genesis 6 verse 22. In a world that had turned its back on the divine, Noah exemplified a faith that would not be shaken. He willingly stepped out in trust, heedless of the mocking laughter and scorn that must have surrounded him as he labored tirelessly on the ark. What was it that compelled Noah to defy the conventions of his time and embark on this seemingly impossible endeavor? The answer lies in the nature of his relationship with the Almighty. The text states that Noah walked with God, Genesis 6 verse 9, indicating a deep and abiding intimacy that transcended the spiritual apathy of his generation. Through direct divine revelation, Noah had come to understand the impending judgment that would soon engulf the world. Rather than succumb to despair or rationalize the warnings away, he responded with resolute faith, placing his trust in the sovereign plan of God. In a world that had abandoned its creator, Noah's unwavering obedience stood as a stark and defiant declaration of his allegiance. As Noah toiled away on the construction of the ark, he must have faced a seemingly endless barrage of skepticism and ridicule from his neighbors. The very idea of a catastrophic flood that would destroy the entire world must have struck many as the ravings of a madman. After all, in the entire history of human civilization, no such event had ever occurred. Yet, Noah pressed on, undeterred by the jeers and taunts of the unbelieving world around him. The Bible records that the ark he built was 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high, Genesis 6 verse 15, a staggering structure that would have required an immense amount of labor and resources to construct. Imagine the scene as Noah and his family worked tirelessly, day after day, to bring this mammoth vessel into being. They must have toiled under the scorching sun, their hands calloused from the endless sawing, hammering, and hauling of timber. The sound of their tools must have echoed across the landscape, a constant reminder to their neighbors of the impending doom they refused to acknowledge. As the ark took shape, Noah's unwavering faith must have been put to the test again and again. Did he ever doubt the validity of God's command? Did he find himself wavering in the face of the overwhelming odds and the jeers of the unbelieving world? The scripture remains silent on these inner struggles, but we can surmise that Noah's faith was forged in the crucible of adversity. Despite the relentless mockery and skepticism, Noah persevered, driven by a profound conviction that the God he served was both just and merciful. He knew that the world had fallen into a state of moral decay, and that judgment was inevitable. Yet, amidst the impending doom, he also believed that God had a plan to preserve the righteous and restore creation. As the ark neared completion, Noah must have faced a growing sense of urgency. The clock was ticking, and the floodwaters were soon to come. Yet, even in the face of this looming catastrophe, Noah remained steadfast in his obedience, trusting that the God who had commanded him to build the ark would also provide the means for his salvation. With the ark finally constructed, Noah turned his attention to the next daunting task, the gathering of the animals. According to the biblical account, God commanded Noah to bring 2 of every sort into the ark, to keep them alive with you. They shall be male and female, Genesis 6 verse 19. Imagine the logistical challenge that Noah and his family must have faced as they set out to collect and house representatives from every species of animal on the face of the earth. From the towering elephants to the tiniest insects, they had to ensure that each creature found its way onto the ark. The text describes how the animals went into the ark to Noah, 2 and 2 of all flesh in which there was the breath of life, Genesis 7 verse 15. This suggests that the animals were not simply rounded up by Noah, but were supernaturally drawn to the ark, obeying the call of their Creator. As the various creatures made their way onto the vessel, Noah and his family must have been in awe of the sheer diversity of God's creation. From the majestic lions to the delicate butterflies, each animal represented a unique expression of the divine design. And Noah, entrusted with their care, must have felt the weight of his responsibility to ensure their preservation. Yet, this task was not without its challenges. Imagine the logistical challenges of housing, feeding, and caring for such a vast menagerie of creatures. The noise, the smells, the constant demands for attention, it must have been a chaotic and overwhelming experience. And what of the predators and prey? How did Noah manage to keep the lions and the lambs, the hawks and the doves, from turning on one another? The text suggests that God shut him in, Genesis 7 verse 16, implying a supernatural intervention that maintained the peace and harmony aboard the ark. As the final animals made their way onto the vessel, Noah must have felt a growing sense of anticipation and dread. The floodwaters were coming, and soon the world as he knew it would be no more. Yet, even in the face of this cataclysmic event, Noah's faith remained steadfast. He trusted that the God who had commanded him to build the ark would also ensure the survival of his family and the animals under his care. The biblical account of the Great Flood is a gripping and awe-inspiring narrative that has captivated the imagination of believers and non-believers alike. As the rain began to fall and the waters began to rise, Noah and his family must have watched in stunned silence as the world they once knew was swallowed up by the relentless deluge. The text describes how all the fountains of the great deep burst forth, and the windows of the heavens were opened, Genesis 7 verse 11, unleashing a torrent of water that engulfed the entire earth. Imagine the sheer power and scale of this event, the deafening roar of the waves, the trembling of the ground, the cries of the desperate reaching up to the heavens for salvation. And what of those who had mocked Noah's preparations? The Bible paints a harrowing picture of their ultimate fate, stating that the waters prevailed on the earth 150 days, Genesis 7 verse 24, drowning all who had refused to heed the warnings. It must have been a profoundly sobering and even terrifying experience for Noah and his family to witness the wholesale destruction of their world. Yet, even amidst the chaos and devastation, Noah and his loved ones remained safely ensconced within the ark, preserved by the grace of God. As the floodwaters continued to rise, they must have clung to the hope that their faith had not been misplaced, that the God who had commanded them to build the ark would also see them through the storm. For days on end, the ark drifted aimlessly, tossed about by the swirling currents and buffeted by the relentless winds. Noah and his family must have felt utterly alone, cut off from the rest of humanity and surrounded by the vast, unforgiving waters. And yet, their trust in the Almighty never wavered. As the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, Noah and his family must have anxiously scanned the horizon for any sign of land. The text describes how the waters prevailed on the earth 150 days, Genesis 7 verse 24, before finally beginning to recede. Imagine the relief and gratitude they must have felt as the ark finally came to rest on the mountains of Ararat, a testament to the unwavering faithfulness of their God. But the ordeal was far from over. Once the waters had subsided, Noah and his family faced the daunting task of rebuilding their lives and repopulating the earth. The world they had once known was gone, and they were now charged with the responsibility of ushering in a new era of human history. The story of Noah's Ark stands as a powerful testament to the transformative power of faith and obedience in the face of overwhelming adversity. As we reflect on this timeless narrative, several profound lessons emerge that continue to resonate with believers and non-believers alike. First and foremost, the account of Noah's Ark underscores the reality of divine judgment and the consequences of human wickedness. The Bible makes it clear that the world had fallen into a state of moral decay, with the wickedness of man becoming great in the earth, Genesis 6 verse 5. This prompted God to take drastic action, unleashing a catastrophic flood that wiped out all of civilization, save for Noah and his family. Yet, amidst the darkness, Noah's story also reveals the heart of a compassionate and merciful God. Though he was rightfully grieved by the depravity of humanity, he still sought to preserve a righteous remnant, providing Noah with the means to survive the impending judgment. This speaks to the unwavering love and grace of the divine, even in the face of human rebellion. Moreover, the narrative of Noah's Ark offers a powerful testament to the transformative power of faith and obedience. In a world that had turned its back on God, Noah stood firm in his allegiance, trusting in the divine plan despite the overwhelming odds and the scorn of his neighbors. His willingness to step out in faith, even in the face of seemingly impossible tasks, serves as a profound example of the kind of steadfast belief that can move mountains. As we consider Noah's unwavering obedience, we are also confronted with the reality of our own spiritual journey. How often do we find ourselves paralyzed by fear or doubt, unwilling to take bold steps of faith in the face of adversity? The story of Noah's Ark challenges us to cultivate a deeper trust in the Almighty, to be willing to stand apart from the crowd and follow the call of God, even when it defies human logic. Furthermore, the narrative of Noah's Ark reminds us of the profound responsibility we have as stewards of God's creation. In entrusting Noah with the preservation of the animal kingdom, the divine demonstrated the inherent value and sanctity of all life. This call to care for the natural world and its inhabitants is a responsibility that extends to us all, challenging us to be good caretakers of the resources and species with which we have been entrusted. Finally, the story of Noah's Ark offers a powerful glimpse into the transformative power of God's redemptive plan. Though the world was consumed by sin and wickedness, the Almighty did not abandon His creation. Instead, He sovereignly orchestrated a means of salvation, using one man's unwavering faith to preserve the seeds of a new beginning. May the timeless lessons of this biblical narrative continue to inspire and transform us as we seek to walk in faith and obedience, no matter the cost.